What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you some of the key performance indicators that I like to look for within the first 1 to 3 days of launching a new product with TikTok ads. Now, establishing your own set of key performance indicators or KPIs is so important because typically you can recognize patterns with any marketing platform that will be able to give you some good data to make predictions on whether or not the product is worth pursuing. And sometimes having a strict set of KPIs that are hinting at the fact that the product will not do well will save you a lot of money, and having good KPIs that will reveal winning products quickly will allow you to pursue an opportunity relatively confidently and make a lot of money. So without further ado, let's dive in and see what we're working with. All right, so as you can see, this is one of my accounts and it is the first 4 days of this product being ran and active. And if you haven't already seen the column structuring on how I like to structure my columns to know what it is that I'm looking for, you're more than welcome to watch my last YouTube video in which I covered this topic. Otherwise, you can kind of see them right here on the screen as we go through them together. All right, so as you can see, we have a couple of different campaigns that all spend various amounts of money. And in the first 4 days, we spent right around $2,200 to make a little over $7,000, and there was misattribution. I don't know the number to be exact, but I think it generated closer to $8,000. Now, TikTok is usually pretty good at attribution relative to Facebook, but they still missed about 20 to 25% within this first 4-day time window. Now, that being said, this did not happen on the first day. A majority actually was spent and earned on the 4th day. So I'm going to give you a day-by-day breakdown of just strictly the testing. So day 1, I launched an add to cart warm-up campaign. Now, if you watch back on my TikTok ads case study video, you'll understand why I launched an add to cart warm-up campaign in that account and why I do it for all of my current and future accounts. And that's to get a little bit of warm-up spend so that TikTok gets a good idea of what your ideal market is and what it's going to cost to market to them. Now, if you do not run an add to cart campaign, that is totally fine. That's just how I do things. So you don't necessarily have to follow along with these KPIs. There'll be a timestamp in the description that you can skip to my complete payment KPI breakdown. All right, so as you can see, we actually started with a $100 daily budget. I know it said $250, but we actually tried doing some stupid stuff on day 2 so that you guys don't have to test the stupid stuff, because you can leave that to me. And we started off with a bid of $5. Now, this is $5 per add to cart, so a $5 cost per add to cart, because the break-even point was right around $25. So usually I like to bid anywhere between a quarter and a fifth of the break-even point as the cost per add to cart. Now, usually if you spend the full amount of this budget, that's a pretty good sign, because it means that you bid above what you probably could have, and it's likely that your cost per add to carts are going to be significantly lower than what you bid. So as you can see here, we were getting right around $3.45 cost per add to carts, which was absolutely great for this product that we were selling. Now, we just so happened to get purchases on the first day. We actually made a little bit over $450, believe it or not. So it was around a 4.5 ROAS on the first day with an add to cart campaign. Now, usually getting any type of purchases, even above like a 1 ROAS, usually means that you have a pretty good product on your hands and it's enough momentum to pretty confidently go into the complete payment stage literally on the next day. But realistically, your product tests are not going to look like this with an add to cart campaign. The purpose of this campaign is to warm up the spend and to ease your way into building a good relationship with TikTok so that they'll hopefully reward you for spending some money in understanding who your ideal customer is. So if you want to test a different interest in a stack campaign, that's cool. Or if you wanted to do completely open targeting, if your product meets a broad enough market, that's also cool. So now, while you might not see 3 ROASs, it's not uncommon to see something above maybe a 1 ROAS during this stage. Now, a couple of quick tips. If your budget does not spend a lot, you might want to increase your bid by $1 or $2 every few hours that it's not spending a good amount. And you want to pretty much do that same protocol for your complete payment optimization campaign, because if your bid is too low, then TikTok is not going to spend it, because it's only going to spend your money where it thinks it's going to convert and when it thinks it's going to convert. So usually you want to see a little bit of activity going on, but the biggest thing you're looking for with this add to cart optimization campaign is going to be a cost per add to cart below that value that you're setting. So right around a quarter to 1/5 of your break-even point. And again, if it's not spending at that value, you could go as far up as 1/2 the break-even point and still have that that product be a profitable winner, but you're a lot more likely to get a good amount of traction on the product if it's right around 1/3 of the break-even point for your cost per add to carts. Now, usually at this stage, you'll probably see something like a 6-to-1 or a 7-to-1 add to cart to purchase ratio. So that means, let's say if you had a 7-to-1 ratio and you got 7 add to carts on the first day, you might expect to see 1 sale. Then when it comes to CPC, CTR, and CPM, typically for a CPC, you want to see something below 50 cents. That's usually a pretty good sign that I tend to see. A click-through rate of anything above 1% is usually fair game as well. And typically you want those CPMs to be below $5, right? If you were cool spending more than $5 for your CPM, you would just be on Facebook. And typically anything above a 1% conversion rate is also fair game to move on to phase 2. So again, if it's not spending at the budget or the bid that you set, it's likely that you just want to increase your bid by a few dollars every few hours until it spends at least half or the full budget. And usually that's anywhere between $50 and $100 of warm-up spend before I personally move into the complete payment stage. Now, I always tell people you do not have to meet all of these KPIs with flying colors. As long as you meet most of them and generally you're looking like you're heading into a positive and productive direction, then you can move on to phase 2, which is the complete payment phase. So now day 2 wasn't so pretty for this complete payment campaign, and I don't want to throw around excuses, but I actually had some problems with the website and do a little bit of funnel hacking for my own website to figure out what was going on, because I knew something was a little bit off and I didn't figure that out until the end of the day. So needing to hit around a 1.6 ROAS to be break even, we actually fell a little bit short of that, and with misattribution recorded, we were probably right around a 1.2 or a 1.3. So usually these aren't the best signs, but again, I had some website issues that you'll see once I fixed, the results ended up being a lot better. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate and pretend that nothing was wrong, and we're gonna go through some of these KPIs as if everything was normal and this is how the product looked, so that you can get a good indication of whether or not I would continue running the product or not. Now, generally with the complete payment optimization, we want to see profitability, right? With any marketing platform we're operating on, we wanna be able to make more than what we're spending money on by enough margin to be able to integrate our cost of goods and our ad spend and make sure that we still have money left over in our pocket at the end of the day. And we didn't see that here day 1. Now, you're not always going to be super profitable off the bat, so sometimes it's important to give it time and at least run this stage for 48 hours in my opinion. So now right off the bat, we're seeing purchases, which is a great sign, but we are seeing unprofitable cost per purchases, and we're seeing a pretty bad add to cart to purchase ratio, right? We talked about 7-to-1 in the add to cart campaign, but when it comes to the complete payment campaign, we should be seeing better than that in terms of an add to cart to purchase ratio. So if 7-to-1 is that add to cart goal, we're looking at more like 6-to-1, 5-to-1, 4-to-1, even 3-to-1 as an add to cart to purchase ratio that's expected in the complete payment state. So getting 71 add to carts, we probably should have had at least 15, 20, 25 purchases, which would have put us in a really, really profitable stage. But since we didn't hit that, we had to kind of go back to the drawing board and see what was going on. Now, a good way to figure out the problem is just by looking at not only the add to cart to purchase ratio, how the cost per add to cart on the complete payment campaign was in comparison to the add to cart campaign, because it shouldn't be that much higher. We can also look at the CPCs, CTRs, CPMs, and conversion rates. And these things are much more important in the testing stage than they are at the scaling phase, because they tend to level off and become a lot less important over time. But for right now, they're pretty important, right? As we see, we're just under kind of 30-cent CPCs on average. We have a click-through rate above a 1%, which is really good. We have CPMs that started to go up a little bit, and now usually that has to do with either the creative or the experience on the landing page. So we saw that our CPMs are starting to rise. So maybe something is going on with our landing page, right? Because our CPC is good, our click-through rate is good, so nothing before our website is creating any of these problems. But our cost per add to cart rose and our conversion rate was actually worse than our add to cart campaign. And as you can see here, our conversion rate plummeted. So usually just based off of those factors, you can figure out whether your site or the product is the problem versus your actual creative or your marketing. Now, moving on to day 2 of the complete payment campaign. I actually didn't change anything because I wanted to see if things would re-optimize with the new setup, making sure that we fixed those things on the website that randomly started tweaking out as soon as we launched our complete payment campaign. But we didn't get a whole lot of spend here, and we didn't get a lot of exciting data coming in. And so it only spent 50 to make 80, made a little bit more, so we were profitable on this day. But pretty much all I had to do was go in and fix a few things, change some bids around, swap in the new link, solidify that all of the changes that we made on the site were done, and then we went ahead and ramped things up for the next day. And now, as much as I would like to say this was really our second day of this complete payment campaign, it was our third day because we did have that day in between where we were fixing things and making sure that we had set things up correctly. But yeah, this was really our third day. Bummer, I know. And as you can see, across all campaigns, we spent $1,600 to make just above $6,000. So obviously a lot better on this third day than what we were seeing on that first and second day. Now again, it's not very common to see these types of numbers within the first like 48 to 72 hours of the complete payment campaign, but we're gonna break down within both of these campaigns what we saw to be able to make the decision to scale even further in the following days after this. So now in this campaign, we tested a few different bids and we tested pretty much the same budgets for all of them. And we found out that literally every single one of them was profitable. And you'll see some pretty big differences in this campaign versus the campaign that you saw yesterday and the day before that. So now not only do we have profitable cost per purchases, but we're seeing that cost per add to cart start to neutralize, right? So you can see how all of these things are connected and how all of these patterns kind of relate to each other. Typically, the lower your cost per add to cart is, the better that your cost per purchase is going to be, because obviously if you can maintain a good add to cart to purchase ratio, those two things are going to be positively correlated together. Now, the biggest change that you'll see is not the CPCs, it's not the click-through rate. The CPM dropped just a little bit because we fixed that landing page and the user experience was a little bit better, right? But it's gonna be the conversion rate and the actual add to cart to purchase ratio, right? So before, it was terrible. It was 71 to 5, and we knew something was wrong. We fixed the problem and we got it to 300 to almost 100, right? That's a 3 to 1 add to cart to purchase ratio versus a 70 to 5. Now again, this ratio is something that you wanna see in the first 72 hours of launching this complete payment campaign to be able to make a good decision on whether or not the product is worth pursuing or not. If you're not seeing a 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, or 6 to 1 add to cart to purchase ratio, it's probably not a good product that you want to be pursuing, and the market is just disinterested in it. So you definitely don't want to force it. And because we fixed the site and we made it so that the experience was a lot better, and we made it so that people were able to actually use it if they wanted to, long story, but basically the website wasn't functional in certain areas to certain customers, and we changed that so that it was, and so therefore the experience was better. There was less of a bounce rate, there was a higher conversion rate, and usually that's going to yield positive momentum in the TikTok account. One of them we were testing a set of interests stacked, and the other one we were setting different interests. We were testing different interests individually. And for this campaign, as you can see, we were seeing a lot of congruency and we were seeing similar patterns, right? There's a method to the madness that I'm talking about, and it's pattern recognition, right? All that media buying really is recognizing positive patterns and doing more of that and pursuing more of that, and recognizing negative patterns and doing less of what's yielding you those negative patterns and those negative KPIs. So our cost per add to carts were good. Our CPCs were well below that 50 cents we usually look for. Our click-through rate was above that 1% that we typically look for. And now again, it doesn't have to be above 1%. It could be 0.5, 0.6, and the product could still do well. But if you have KPIs that are falling short, you need to have other KPIs that are meeting the key performance indicators we're looking for with flying colors to essentially make up for it. And don't get me wrong, I've seen 8, 9, 10, 11 CPMs and still been able to make a product work, but it's because those other key performance indicators were meeting the criteria with flying colors. So I hope that gave you a little bit of clarification on what it is that you should be looking for in the first few days of testing a product on TikTok, especially if you use my strategies. I hope you can actually put this into practice and scale hopefully your first winning product of many on this platform. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.